The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but freed people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations.
I had no idea that that church I was running by every day was something my grandfather established.
This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Overnight, it's like, oh, it's no longer the quarters, now it's Lincoln Heights. Oh, so now we get to use Abraham Lincoln for our name. And you think about all the other people that they could have used, but they picked Lincoln. And I think that's sort of a stereotypical of what they do.
There wasn't any black restaurants. As far as black business and weed, it wasn't none.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Why has it been easier for other groups than us?
Because of anti-black hatred.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR rules, don't tune in.
Go ahead and pre-order the Reparations Now documentary at reparationsnowdoc.com. That's reparationsnowdoc.com. Available June 19th, 2023. Happy Juneteenth.
Of the voters of California, really, in 2024. So that's the other stuff that we're working on, that's the other stuff that we're doing, all related to reparations. Okay, I want to stop there. All right. I know you got a bunch of questions, but before I get to your questions, we have Betty Williams of the Sacramento NAACP join us. Betty, I was told, hello. Betty, I was told that you are also going to ask some questions about Sacramento's potential reparations work and whether or not the city of Sacramento should start its own city of Sacramento reparations task force or commission. So Betty, I'll give you some space here and then we'll get to your questions. All right, thank you.
Okay. Last minute I was giving grandma duties, that's why I'm late. Betty Williams, I'm president of Greater Sacramento NAACP. I've also been part of like a pre-task force for reparations for the local area for Sacramento. And it's something that was started by Mayor Steinberg. And so for the longest time, I actually thought it was the task force itself until I asked the question. And then it came back that the state had given all the cities or counties in the state money to start their own task force. And you may have heard San Francisco was one of those that started their own task force. And at the end of their research and outreach, they came back with a number of recommendations, one of which became very popular, most of the nation heard about, was recommending that they give $5 million to each African American that lived in the city of San Francisco. That's what their local task force came with. What Chris has been talking about, because he's been part of the state task force, or the commission actually. And so the last meeting with Mayor Steinberg and some other leaders came about saying, okay, we want to start a task force, what do we want to do? Do we want to have a task force that creates something that says money for each African American in Greater Sacramento area or in the city of Sacramento, since he's the mayor only for the city of Sacramento? If we do something like this, what should that look like? And should it mean that each person receives a dollar amount for each person that lives in the city of Sacramento? And should it look like money that goes towards education, home ownership, building your businesses, and giving a dollar amount? What should that look like? And so he wanted to create this task force to do the outreach to African Americans and have these conversations. So for me, my question to you, so this is like the precursor before anything goes out. I didn't know, how many of you knew there was a pre-task force for reparations for the city of Sacramento? Okay, nobody. That's the point of these little small meetings, because they're not reaching the people that they need to reach. How many people think that for the city of Sacramento only, is this question, for black folks only in the city of Sacramento, should each of those persons, based on the model that the state recommended, receive a check that's black?
All black folks?
All black folks. Well,
No.
no.
No. We're gonna lineage
If we
basis?
use your model, it's based on the...
Right.
Right. So I said based on the state's model.
Let's make those languages right.
Thank you, thank you. Any other language you need me to correct? Since I'm in front of my grandkids, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, thank you. What do you feel about money going towards education? Do you think that should be part of it? Okay, a couple. Home ownership? Do you think that should be part of it? Okay, more than half. Growing your own business? Okay. So these are the things that you need to know, or when the mayor prepares this task force, even some of you in this room may want to even be on that task force to develop the questions and the research that the city of Sacramento wants. Since they're receiving money from the state, we need to make sure that we have the right information going forward for our city. It may not be like San Francisco, but we want it specifically for Sacramento. Does that make sense? Okay. And so I wanted to let you know that it's coming. I think it's going to be one more meeting before an RFP goes out. There will be an RFP that goes out. And because I suggested that the net goes out to people that looks like us, not to individuals that don't look like us, that may be white, but they hire black firms to do the work. Right. Right, that's my point. And so, like some of you may be in this room, or you may have organizations, once that RFP goes out saying, we want you to do the outreach and or marketing for the research to start a task force, we want to make sure that you have that. So with that being said, how many of you signed the sign-in sheet so we could capture your information? Okay, so if you didn't, make sure you sign it so when, as we come closer to the information with the mayor's office, that you will be aware of that information immediately. And if you want to be part of that task force, you can be part of that. Questions?
Not a question, comment.
Sure.
I'll stand up. My name is Lonnie DeWitt. I have a document here. I typed it, I printed it, but I can't read it, I'm blind. But I'm going to say this. I don't share the optimism that I'm hearing, and that's because it seems that when it comes to black people in America, we always have to have a task force. I want to know why we're always at the back of the line. That's one of my questions. Other people have come to this country and got to the front of the line. We're still in the back of the line. When the war in Ukraine started, within a year, our president made the quote that he was going to support, that the administration was going to support Ukraine at all costs, basically. Anytime, anywhere, to help, whatever it takes. Why can't he give us that same support? Now, this is at the federal level, and I understand that. California is California. But I'm just disappointed because we seem to be kicking this can down the road every year. And we can't get any guarantees because this time next year, all I can hear is, well, somebody didn't sign it, so we got to start all over again. No, I personally don't want to hear that. I think it's window dressing. It's something that I think we should move beyond that. I want something that's substantive, not these promises that we seem to be getting from the White House and from Sacramento and California.
That's a really good point. Because we're always creating task force for us. I remember I was part of something for Cal Expo when they were trying to choose a marketing firm to do outreach for black folks. And so the marketing firm that they were choosing, which I knew they had a backroom deal, they were going to choose Runyon. And all these black firms statewide came to do their presentation, but they were going to choose Runyon, which was all white at the time. And so the owner of Runyon asked if I was going to vote for them. And I told him no. And the general manager at the time said, she's only one vote. And so Runyon says, she's only one vote, but she represents some black people. And you're asking the marketing firm. And so their presentation, Runyon's presentation was great, but they had one black man that they brought in from Oakland. And he was going to do research on black people on how to market to them. And then they were going to take that research and do the marketing for the state fair. And I thought, you don't choose a black firm that already know what we like? I didn't. You're going to choose a white firm to have a black man do research on us, and then the program was $150,000 for 90 days. That firm, and so they ended up choosing Runyon. But what Runyon ended up doing was coming back to me and says, which one of the black firms that you feel was the best in all the presentations, I'm going to subcontract with them. And so that's what they did, they subcontracted. But I thought, why wouldn't they have chosen a black firm in the first place that knows this? And they used the marketing for that black firm. They did excellent. They used that man's model, took it to the national convention in Las Vegas, and won first prize. under Runyon. And so I do get tired. That's why I'm having these small conversations, and we're going to have them throughout the summer, because I do get tired of us being in the back and the task force, and we want to make sure that people are at the table that'll hold them to this. And yes, they are talking about a deficit at the statewide level and all these things, but they seem to have money for everything else. And so why not us? They have a budget for everything else. Why not us? And so if you're going to have a task force, Mayor Steinberg, if nobody knows about this pre-task force that you started, and even then, I have to fight for NAACP and the Urban League to be at the table at the very first meeting. Someone let me know that they were going to have a reparations meeting, but Urban League and NAACP wasn't invited.
So I got a question.
Sure.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jonathan Burgess. My ancestors came to California before it was California. My question, Betty, and to you, I got the opportunity to listen to Task Force Member Tanaki speak with the Black and Jewish Coalition on Reparations. And he said something very keen and specific. He said every organization, every church, every institution, every government, local and state, had a hand in the demise that happened to black folks. Primarily those of us that were descendants of slaves. My family being here, Betty, and I have had conversations, I think what you're doing is great. But it's disingenuous for the NAACP, knowing the history, right, of what happened to some of my family, what also happened across the state, specifically with selling land that were black folks to all white people. Okay, right after we came out of before desegregation. I'm asking you as the Sacramento president, will you advocate for national to apologize, but when is Sacramento going to apologize? Because I do want us to walk hand in hand and say, hey, let's walk in unity and go for reparation for our people. But it'd be disingenuous for you to stand here today knowing that harms were done, representing that organization, not yourself as a person, but the organization. Just like the state of California, right? It'd be like California saying, hey, Gavin saying, hey, we're going to support federal, but we're not going to acknowledge what we did to these people here, my people included. And so I say this, had it not been for our ancestors, and some of you don't even know your ancestors, because they're underneath lakes, right? Yeah, right? Some of you won't even know. But had it not been for those pioneers that laid the foundation, none of us would be here, because there was a big migration west that came from what these pioneers did. And they were wronged by the state, by the county, by the NAACP, by law enforcement, by everybody. So my question, Betty, well, actually my ask is for you to advocate for us as a people and atone for what that organization did, not you personally.
It feels like me personally, because you and I have had this conversation before. And as I told you, when that situation happened, I think I was 10. And so with that history, I didn't even know about it. So one of the things that John and I, when he called, I thought the phone call was for us to work together for a business thing, and I was all excited. And then he went into this history that I never heard about before until the moment of that phone call. And so when I realized how old it was and how young I was when it happened, so I went to the state, as I told him, and the state recommended it that it goes to national, which it did, and then national contacted one of their attorneys to circle around with them. And so what they told me is that they would be working with you, because I have no history other than what you have verbally told me on the phone. I know you sent Selena, who's the executive director for California, Hawaii, NAACP, some information detailed, and then Selena tried to explain to me that she has also been working with you. So every time we get in these, I just find it interesting, every time we get in these public settings, you bring this up for me to apologize for something that happened when I was 10 by the NAACP. And yes, I do represent the NAACP at this time. When I even tried to find the actual documentation within my office, I was reminded for those of you who don't know, the NAACP was bombed by white supremacists. And so a lot of our history was destroyed. That's when Dr. White, I think, was the president at the time. I don't know how many remember him. So even if I had anything, it was destroyed during the white supremacy. So I would suggest that you and I have another conversation without the audience so that we can go through what I've already gone through for you with the state and the national, because right now I'm talking about reparations, and that's what this discussion is about. And so what I was bringing forth to you all is that we need to make sure that we have conversations that's going to move forward, that the mayor is going to move forward. But as far as an incident that happened with your family in the history when I was 10 years old, I want us to park that so you and your brother and I can have another conversation. I'm going to bring in the state so that we won't be having this conversation in a group setting like this again.
Betty, that's totally fine, Betty.
Thank you.
What I'll say is this, and I'll close. I respect your position. I respect you as a person. I hope you didn't take it personal. It's not personal. It's not personal. Okay? Gavin,
because you keep choosing to do it in a public setting.
Betty,
and you have my number.
Betty, Gavin Newsom was not even born when what happened to our people, but he's going to issue an apology to all black people in the state for what happened. So you being 10 years old is not an excuse for an organization. I'm not blaming you, I'm saying the organization did it.
But it feels that way
okay.
in this setting. This is a reparations meeting.
And this is all about reparation because your family and my family was here at the foundation.
Well, right now it's about you and your family.
No.
It's not?
No, it's not, absolutely
It's not about you saying that I'm 10 years old, I shouldn't have anything to do with that?
The Gavin Newsom and him signing a bill is about reparation for California.
I understand that, but your issue is with the NAACP right now.
The NAACP is an institution, right? Not you personally, the institution wrong.
But I represent the NAACP. That's why
Absolutely
you're in
you
this
do.
room. That's why you're in this room.
Right.
And the discussion, again,
I want
is
transparency for our
reparation.
people.
I want you and I to have an honest conversation,
Which we
but you
can.
don't have
I'd
to
love
have, I don't think so. You only want to have, I know. You only want to have these conversations in public. But you and I even had a talk when we had something over downtown. You said you would call me, we would say, it hasn't happened, then you show up here.
I show up here. No, here's why I show up here. I show up here because the NAACP is an organization that hurt black people as a whole. And you want to acknowledge it.
I will not acknowledge that NAACP.
So that's why Gavin's saying, you know what, California did this black people.
It's a personal thing. Thank you.
So we got to get back to we got to get to questions. We got to get to questions.
Bring it, because I know you like public platforms. I know you love that. That's why you're doing this.
Okay.
So, but the invitation is still out there for you to call me.
I will call you back.
So that's where we're going to end this.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I do want to get to other questions too.
Yeah, I just want to ask a short question. How long do you have to be in Sacramento, live in Sacramento before you be eligible?
So if we use the state model.
If it's the state, so, and this is the question, right, because Sacramento is thinking about doing something like this. So at the state level, it's 6 months. Right, at the state level, it's 6 months. 6 months residency at any time during the years between 1850 and 2020. So Sacramento uses that kind of model, and that's what it would be. But to be honest with you, this is part of why we're asking you about this, because what the rules and what we do is really up to us. It really is up to us. So we could say we like the 6 months, we could say we like a year, we could say we like more than that or less than that too. But that's part of why we're asking folks about Sacramento now, is because we want to know what the people of Sacramento think, right? And do we think 6 months is good? Do we think it should be longer, shorter, etc.? But at the state level, it is 6 months at any time between the years of 1850 and 2020. And something important to note too, that the state level, it says 6 months residency at any time during that period, meaning you potentially don't have to be a current California resident. Right. You could potentially be someone who lived in California, left California because of many reasons, right? And then still be potentially eligible as long as you are also a descendant of someone who was enslaved or free and living in the United States. And if I could real quick, I want to get to the brother's point over there too, and the brother's comment over there too. I thought it was a good one. When brother, I hear you. And, you know, one thing I'll say is, I think if you talk to some of our people in, let's say, the late 1700s, or even the 1600s, even the 1800s, and you told them, yeah, this slavery thing is gonna be over soon, they would have said, man, we've been enslaved for 200 something plus more years. This ain't never gonna end. This ain't never gonna change. And it changed. It ended. And I understand also that we haven't, and I think you're absolutely right too, every other group has gotten something. There's people who came to the country after we've been here who got stuff. As you mentioned, it seems like we have unlimited money to do everything else except pay this debt.
Well,
And this is
I'd like to
exactly.
know, sir, how is it that Biden, with the stroke of a pen, can commit $80 billion to a country that has not helped in the growth and nurturing of America?
That is a great question.
And the stroke of a pen, where is that pen when it comes to black Americans?
Yeah.
That's what I like to know.
I would.
We have 58 million black people here in America, and that's just with 350 million Americans. But the 58 million are not all adults. They're not all American descendants of slavery.
Yep.
So, but just do the math. You know, if and I think somebody mentioned, I think Betty or you did, if we offered each adult individual, man, woman, child, $2 million, $5 million, it wouldn't come near the amount of money that we give to other countries. I mean, that's just a fraction.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, why is it Biden didn't need a task force when he came up with that, all he did was stroke of the pen and be done. So why do we need a task force? This task force has been around way before 2022. This has been going on for quite a number of years.
So let me, well, I can't answer for, well, I agree with you 100%, first of all. And it's true. It seems like when it comes to us, we got to do all these extra things too, right? Obviously I can't speak for President Biden, right? I know you're not asking me to speak for the president. But I agree with what you're saying. And I think it's the right point to make. I will say though that one, there's never been a task force to study and develop reparations proposals for our people in the state of California. That's never happened. This is the first time we've done this. For other groups though, for example, let's use the Japanese folks, they had a task force to do their reparations, and then they had a bill to do what their task force said to. So in the 80s, when the Japanese folks got reparations, they had a task force first, then they had reparations after that too. So it's not uncommon. If you think about the folks who received reparations for, let's say, the 9/11 terrorist attacks, they had a 9/11 reparations. They had a 9/11 commission task force. Then they got their payments too. If you think about the folks who got reparations for the forced sterilization that California had, I don't know if there was a task force for that, but there were definitely a bunch of hearings and definitely a bunch of discussion and debate before that happened too. So it's not uncommon for there to be groups who come together to actually put the thing together first before they actually do it. But you're absolutely right still too. It is way too long for us. Way too long for us. And it's also the first time that we're doing this too. And I said this in the town hall that I just did an hour ago. We've never done this as a people for us specifically. This has never happened specifically for us as a people. And the task force, by the way, started in 2020. Well, started in 2021. It was signed into law in 2020. Started in 2021. They have 2 years to do what they are supposed to do. That 2 years is up this month. So the next step is to actually get reparations to you. That's what we're working on next.
Do you know what the first form of reparations were? Do you have any idea? Now, I'll tell you. The first, in my opinion, the first form of reparations was when our government paid white slave owners $300 for each slave to free them.
Yep.
That was the first form of reparations in my mind. After this come through.
Yep. Completely correct. And keep in mind though that what we're doing is working to get us ours, right? That's what we're here for. That's what we are here for. We're here to get us ours. And yes, it's taking a long time. Yes, it should have happened when what you just described should never have happened. It should have happened at the end of the Civil War or before, when it was promised, and it didn't happen. So what we're doing right now is working to make sure that it happens. That's why we're here. And yes, it's been a long time, but so what? Like, let's get it. I got a question here and here. So go here and here.
I just wanted to inform him and Chris that one of the proposals that has been set forth for the reparations part of the proposal is that the elder community is prioritized. So when this goes through, you will get first as well.
And let me say that louder too for the folks who didn't hear. So my sister said that one of the recommendations for direct compensation is that the elders be paid first. Okay, so that's one of the recommendations. Pay the elders first. Also, give everybody a down payment. So everybody a down payment too. Okay, so that is definitely one of the recommendations. Thank you for that. And you know, I'll say one last thing, then I'll get to you, brother. If you got a question, then we have a question here, and other questions here too. So, you know, I get it. You know, I mean, we've been here a long time. It's not unreasonable to be skeptical about whether or not this can actually happen.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable to be doubtful about whether this can actually really happen. It's not unreasonable to be discouraged. It's not. We've been beat up in this country as a people. We've been hurt as a people in this country. We've been all the bad things as a people in this country. It seemed like nothing is changing and going the way that we want, in the way that we want. That's absolutely true. It's absolutely valid for you to have that feeling and that thought. It's also absolutely true. It's also absolutely real, just as real as what we just said, that if you don't believe this can happen, it won't happen. If you don't believe this can happen, it will not happen. 100% a fact. If you don't think this can happen, it damn sure will not happen. Okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I heard the president about before you go about being African American.
Can you go a little bit louder?
I understand that presently about 40 to 45 million African Americans in the country.
Yep.
And the president wondered who qualifies. That would qualify only, I heard something about 4.7 million families would be eligible under that criteria. That's, I'm just trying to get clarification.
Yeah, no, and great question. So the question is, so there are, I think about 40 plus million African Americans across the country, right? Plus, right? Plus at 58 million. The higher the number, the better for me. All right. So there's tens of millions of us across the country, right? What is the percentage of those people who are actually descendants of U.S. slavery? The answer is 85 to 90%. 85 to 90% of anyone who self-identifies as Black African American is a descendant of someone enslaved in the United States. Okay? So in California, though, and keep in mind this is only for California. In California, though, there are about, so we're 6% of the state population. There's about 2.5 million, 2.6 million people who self-identify as Black or African American. 80 to 90% of those people are eligible. So that's like 2 million of the 2.6 million people. So if you hear that again, it's actually between 80 to 90%. Nationally, it's like 90%, but in California, it's between 80 and 90%. And one thing to say about this too is that, you know, before the year, let's say 1965, 1970, like 99% of anybody who you saw that you thought was Black was a descendant of someone enslaved in this country. And that's because the country had a no Black people allowed out from outside the country rule for ever, really, until then. It kind of makes sense, right? If you don't like Black folks, why would you allow and like to bring in more Black folks into the country? So our immigration rules before like 1965, 1970, really said no black people allowed. So before 1965, 1970, like 99% of anyone who's self-identified as black African American is and was a descendant of someone who's enslaved in this country. That's partly why, if you're someone who, I ain't trying to put no numbers and no dates on nobody in here, but if you are somebody who was born before 1965 or 1970, let's say, you are 99% likely to be a descendant of someone who was enslaved in this country. And so, if there were some, for example, remember I talked about the Office of Genealogy that the state is going to set up? Right? If that Office of Genealogy says, one of the ways you can show that you are a descendant is show us a birth certificate or show us something that says you were alive in the United States sometime before the year 1965, that puts you in the 99% group. Right? That could be a very simple way for folks to show that they are most likely, 99% likely, a descendant of U.S. slaves. But the answer is between 80 to 90% in California, and that's about 2 million of the 2.5 million. All right, question here.
Okay, my question is for Betty. I want to get back to Sacramento's culpability and all this real quick. And I'm sure you don't have the answer, but your best assessment on with this commission that's being set up, do you think that there's a possibility to maybe institute some changes to policy? The story that you just told, really exemplified the good old boy cronyism club that's been going on in Sacramento forever. So some kind of policy changes to make sure that the instance that you describe, doesn't keep happening repeatedly, because they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're just like, this is what we're doing. If you don't like it, too bad. That's my first question. And then my second question, because Darrell Steinberg has said that he's not going to be running for mayor again, he's got another 18 months. How probable do you think that it would be that we could get the checks cut before his time in office expires?
Let me go to the first one. As far as creating policy and criteria, I think that's what we need to ask that task force. What I can say that the city of Sacramento has the money to start a task force. It's sitting there. So it's up to the mayor before he leaves to make sure a task force is in place. But before he puts a task force in place, he has to do the outreach to the community saying, what do you want that task force to do? And if that's one of the things we want them to do, we need to say that. So once it's in place, that's what they will do. As far as the check, it might be in the mail, I don't know.
Lost in the mail.
I know, right. We can push as hard as we can. I don't think it's going to happen in 18 months. But what we need to make sure is that after the mayor leaves, that this train doesn't stop. Since they have the money from the state to start the task force for the city of Sacramento, let's make sure that that continues to push through, and it has the things that we want in it. And so we need to make sure that the organizations or individuals that they choose to do the outreach look like us. That's what we can ask them to do.
Thank you for that. And just one more quick question. Did you say that all cities were granted funding to start?
Their counties were.
Oh, the county, each county. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, brother here, I go to sister here, and then yes, sir.
Chris, what does our people, what role do we play to move this needle?
Question is, what role do
us as a collective, black people in the city of Sacramento, the state of California, what is it that we are charged to do to move the needle for this project?
I love that question. Oh man. So whether or not how success. So I just spoke a little bit about one of the things that we're gonna need to be successful, right? One of the things is, as I mentioned, we have to believe it's possible. Okay, first. Okay. Right, that's the first thing. The second thing, though, is that we have, part of what's gonna make us successful is how, not just how much we believe is possible, but how involved we are in pushing our state politicians and our governor to that 41, 21, and 1. Okay? So let me ask right now, who is our sitting city of Sacramento? Who represents the city of Sacramento in the state assembly right now? What's the person's name?
The former city councilman.
Ashby, or is she? I know she's in one of them seats.
So Angelique Ashby used to be a city council member. She is, I don't think she represents the city anymore, but she represents parts of the county at the state level. I'm talking about the city of Sacramento, where you are. McCarty, right? Right. So Kevin McCarty. Okay. So he will have a vote on reparations. Okay. Or potentially. He'll still be in office next year, right? He's actually on the Black Caucus too, by the way. But that's another story. All right. But the point is, and this is to your question, he's somebody who will have a vote on whether or not we have reparations or not next year. Okay. So part of what is important to do for us as regular people is to, one, know who it is that's going to have the decision making, particularly specifically where we are, and then find out right now where they are right now, where do they stand on reparations right now. What they're going to tell you is, well, I'm waiting until the reparations task force is done, and then after that they're going to say, well, I'm waiting until there's a bill so I can read it first. Okay, but part of what we're going to have to do is know who's our representatives, know where they are on reparations, and if they ain't where we want them to be, push them to where we want them to be. Okay? So that's part of what our job is over the next year, really, but definitely for the rest of this year, is to make sure that when we know, first, that Kevin McCarty is our sitting assembly member. Okay? Kevin McCarty will have a vote on the reparations bill next year. Kevin McCarty could be among those 41 that we need. And so part of what we're going to be doing and have to do more of is push our local representatives at the state assembly level and the state senate level to vote for the reparations bill when it comes out. So that's going to be part of our job.
Okay. Yeah. I have another question that in regard to, it's really addressing the brother's question about why Biden would stroke the pen, sign so much legislation and allot so much money to so many other concerns and omit us. To me, it's clearly the battle, right? And that's why I'm asking this question. Why do you theorize that this room is not packed to the gills? Because I have a theory about why. Okay. Why do you theorize why this room is not filled to the brim with folks for asking questions, getting information, finding out what it is necessary to move forward?
Great question, and then I want to hear what you think too.
Okay.
So I think one, most of our conversations like this have been, I would say, smaller, and I think it takes time, to be honest with you, to get enough people to know about what's going on, for enough people to get to be a part of stuff like this. But to be honest with you, I think part of the answer is what the brother was speaking to. I think one of the things that we are fighting and come up against, and I'm just keeping it real with y'all, is that some of the black folks that we talk to, and we hear this though more often than I would like to hear, don't believe this is even possible. Don't believe this is even something that could happen. Okay? So it's hard for you to show up to something where you don't even believe in it. You don't even believe it's possible. Okay? All right? You may hear about it, yeah, okay, I want to wait until it's something more. Okay? But I think that's part of it. I think partly too is that because we're kind of early. Right? So, and this I think is a credit to the work that we're doing and the work that everybody else here is doing too. We're here early in this process. Usually you get these kind of community media town halls after the reparations bill has been written already and people want you to go show up and do something. We made a point to come early, actually years early,
We started doing these really in 2020, 2021, 2022, we're in 2023 now. We're years early. So I think that's partly why, too, that we are kind of early in this. And then I think also, too, you know, I would like to see, and I've said this publicly, too, I think more organizations locally, statewide, should be a part of raising awareness around reparations. Keep in mind, too, though, that, you know, or two things. One, although we have smaller crowds, we do a lot of these. Okay? As I said, we've probably done 15 to 20 already this year. Okay? So if you have a small group, but you multiply by a big number of those small groups, it's actually more people than it looks like. And then also, I think people are, or at least as I was saying, I think the organizations that are also working on this are doing things in their own way too, that we're probably not seeing. But I think it's a combination of those things. One last thing I'll say is, though, I'm almost positive that the number of people will be growing. Okay, and to be honest with you, more and more people are asking about this, coming to the events, participating at the public hearings, etc. too. And part of why we need you, and this is to your last question too, part of what we need people like you and others to do is talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your organizations in your community. Bring more people. Next time, somebody bring somebody. Okay? Next time, somebody else bring somebody else. Okay? That's part of our charge too. And I would love to be able to do it too.
Yeah, well, I like that that methodology of invitation. However, my theory is simply marketing.
Okay.
And I think that these concepts should be marketed as if it were a product, a popular product, or a product that we want to make popular. I think that it should be on the radio. I think it should be on billboards. I think that we should invest in whatever's necessary to pronounce this thing and announce it so that everywhere you go, you're reminded that this is in the air. Because what I've observed we don't do well is market. We're the most marketed to group, but we're not that adept at marketing ourselves. So I think that it would be this will be a good launching opportunity for us to delve into how to market a message to each other and how to market participation from each other.
I would agree with that 100%. I think that's also part of it too. And just to give you some background too. So the State Reparations Task Force has, it asked a bunch of community organizations like ours to do one community listening session last year. Okay. As I mentioned, we did 10. Then we did 10 Q&As on top of that. Right? And we're coming from our own pocket here, right? We're not, like, we're like, we're doing this as all volunteers. Okay? Because we want people, we want us to get reparations. Right? That's what we want. But I think you're absolutely right too. More marketing is necessary. I don't remember the last time we did. I think it was last month. We usually have like it's either every other month or every quarter at least. We are on 97.5 KDE with Keisha Matthews actually, giving a California reparations update. So that's part of what we do. But yeah, you're right. The more, the better. That's part of why we need you. And that's part of what the charge that we're asking folks to be a part of is help raise awareness. That's one of our two top priorities at our organization is to raise awareness and support in California for California reparations. All right, I think I'm not sure if it was back there or this way.
I want to ask a question.
Yes,
We're aware of the people that's hate. It really upset me one night. I'm laying in bed and I'm falling asleep, but I got my TV on a Christian station. And I woke up and I heard this man say restoration for the Californians. What are they trying to do? And I'm like, who in the heck is this? He's supposed to be a minister. And the guy was talking about, they're not talking about Oprah Winfrey, Bill Cosby, and all of the millionaires as athletes and this and that, and they trying to get some money. I cut it off and went to sleep. I say, so we gonna have, I'm thinking, like, are we gonna have some problems with these people?
That's a great question. So, the answer is, to be quite honest with you, yes. Okay. There is already an anti-California reparations effort already underway. Okay. It's already underway. Okay. There's not 1 week where there's not. And I don't like to put it into the political groups. I'm an independent personally. I don't like to put it into political groups. And by the way, there were both Democrats and Republicans that voted for the state reparations task force bill that passed in 2020. Okay. So both the California Democratic Party and the California Republican Party, at least members of those parties, both supported the state reparations task force bill, the bill to create the state reparations task force. But there's not 1 week where Fox News doesn't do an anti-California reparations story. Not 1 week. Okay? And it's been about 6 months of it. Okay. And I'm saying that not to, because I don't get into the left versus right thing, because I know there are Republicans and conservatives who support reparations. I know it. Some of them voted for the state reparations task force bill. Right? But to your point, so regardless of what the political party is or party that the people who you were hearing belong to or what their political thoughts are, yes, there will be people, organizations, even politicians, parts of our government who are going to oppose reparations in California. It is absolutely true. I want us to, I don't want to say prepare ourselves, but maybe brace ourselves, okay? Because what we're working to do here, what we will do here, will have never been done before. So that means the effort to stop it will be something like we've never seen before too. There is, we've been tracking for maybe about 6 to 9 months, let's say, a well-organized, well-funded, very national, so not just California people, but very national, what they're doing in California for reparations effort. The misinformation and disinformation and confusion is one of their biggest weapons. One of the biggest weapons is to give you bad information, wrong information, on purpose. Putting out numbers that ain't the numbers. The 225,000 was a number that was out, right? Then it was 350,000. Then it was 1.2 million. That's the newest one. I mean, it's going in the right direction, but still. Okay. All right. You don't have to be a descendant of slaves. You do have to be a descendant of slaves. The governor is against reparations. The governor's against cash reparations. I almost can't count the lies. Okay, and it's daily. Okay, part of what we're fighting through is this daily anti-reparations energy. Okay? It's partly why, I will say it again, we have to believe it's possible too. Yes. Okay? We won't win this if we don't think it's possible, and they telling us it ain't gonna happen too. Okay? And we will get this done. Even though there's a lot of anti-reparations energy from the folks who are against reparations, it's not gonna be enough to stop us. It's just not. I go here, and I think I got here, then I got here. Let me go to Nzinga, then I go there, then I come over to you, and then I'm gonna go back to the brother over here.
My question was about the Sacramento reparations effort too. Because I was just going to bring up that it is for both of you. In 2021, Steinberg agreed, he made like a commitment to reparations pilot program in Sacramento. Him and along with I think 11 other mayors. It's called the Mayors. Mayors Organized for Reparations and Equity. So, and that's been 2 years ago. And I remember sending an email when I saw him on that conference because I was like, oh yeah. So We need to make sure that we are the people that are on the task force, you know, like people that look like us. And then we also need to, if he only has 18 months left, he spent twice as much time, you know, it's gonna be twice as much time already at the end of that. So he needs to be pushed to get something together so it doesn't fall, you know, to the side and the next person comes in. So I just wanted to bring that up. You know, it's been, you know, a while ago, but this is not like it's new. He's already committed, so he needs to be held to the fire to move forward with this.
So he did start something, like I said, that pre-task force. The last meeting they had was because I pushed it, because I started getting phone calls from various folks saying, where are we? And there hadn't been a meeting in a long time, so I did push that we have a meeting. That's one. Two, he appointed someone to his staff to overlook this, to make sure that it happens. So my question in the last meeting that we had with him, because this was before he announced that he wasn't running. And so the question was, what if you don't run? Will that position, does that position leave with you? Is that a mayor appointed position by you? So if a new mayor comes in, that person may not be there anymore? And he said that's a possibility. They may not feel the same way. So with that being said, he does have a full-time staff person that's focused on reparations right now. We need to make sure whoever is the next mayor, that position stays in place. That's one. And when we start having these town hall meetings with all these people that's running for mayor, I just heard today Cornel West is running? No, he's running for president. We need to have him too. But all the people who are running for mayor, when we have them up, every single time they're at a panel, we need to ask that question. Are you going to make sure that position stays in place? And make them say yes and hold them to it, whoever becomes mayor.
So I had brother here, then I'm gonna come back this way, and then I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna come back here. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you know, statistics show that how long the black dollar stays in the black community, and for us it's I think 6 hours. So let's just take a situation here where hypothetically, I believe, you know, that in one day and one time we're going to get a block of money. And the question is, as I'm a developer, and sometimes I got projects that I've been working on for 3 years, 5 years, and I got one that I worked on for 13 years, and now I got it and I'm 3 years into it. So as we move forward, has there been any consideration of an organization coming together where we could take our money, let's say we got $250,000, we kept $200,000 out of it, you know, the other $50,000, everybody got a Cadillac. So as we move forward, is there a thought of a group coming together where we can start making acquisitions or pulling the power? Because, you know, if you got 5 people, that's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, where you could have 30, 40, 50,000 acres from, you know, Natomas all the way to Hard Rock Cafe, where we just govern the land, you know. Has there been any consideration of a organization or task force looking into land banking for when we do have, you know, establishment? Because if we don't and we get it, then the money will disappear. But if we have it in land, we control the narrative of it. So that was a question that I was asking. Has there been thought as much as being putting it together as, you know, all these different committees and other committees saying that, hey, this is what we're going to do when we get it. You know, so I was just, as we're looking into the future, I just wanted to ask that question.
No, it's a great question, and there's 2 things to say on it. One of the questions that we ask, we do, so this is more of a Q&A town hall, right? We also hold what we call community listening sessions. Right? So it's where we hear from people, we hear stories about people's experiences, etc. One of the things that we ask at the community listening sessions is, what will you do with reparations? What are you going to do with your reparations? And we hear some of the best ideas I've ever heard, right? Some of what you said, we hear, I'm going to take a piece of mine, I'm going to contact this brother, he's going to take a piece of here, we'll contact the sister, we're going to put all the pieces together, and we're going to start X, Y, Z. Or we're going to put ours together, and we're going to buy land, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe that. I believe we're gonna do amazing things with what we get. Look what we do with little to nothing. Okay? Look what we do with what we have now. Okay? So I am very confident that we're gonna do a lot of great things together on our own accord privately. But to your question, the agency that the state task force is recommending that the state create, the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, the task force is also recommending something called the Office of Business Affairs inside of that agency. That would be a place and could be a place where something like that to actually happen in a more sort of structured way. Now again, I think we're going to do it on our own because we're already doing a lot of great stuff on our own. I have my own ideas too about how to combine mine with yours, and we each take 20% of ours and we put it together. I mean, now, but think about where we are right now though. We're talking about what we're going to do with it. Okay? What we're going to do with it. Not is we going to get it or not. It took me over a year to even be able to imagine that. Personally, and I'm like doing town halls and like I'm asking people, it took me, like my brain couldn't even think about what we look like as a people after reparations. One of the other questions we ask folks is, we say, okay, I snap my fingers, boom. Now we have reparations. Go to the window, open the window, look outside the window. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What's different about us as a people now? So, I know we're gonna do great things. I know we're gonna have great ideas, because we already have them. We just haven't had the wealth to actually do what we want to do. I mean, think about a building like we're in right now, right? The Fruitridge Community Collaborative, right? Who would say we couldn't buy this building? Who would say we couldn't buy this land? There's a black-owned farm, or urban farm 2 blocks from here, right? That's the Israel family farm, right? Who would say we couldn't all expand that farm by 10, right? I mean, there's so much we can do, so much we are gonna be able to do. And of course, as I've mentioned, the state task force is recommending that there be a place inside this new agency that could support those kind of ideas too, right? To support businesses specifically with grants, contracting, et cetera, et cetera. All right, other question was, I think I was going, John, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to personally apologize, Betty, to you if you felt it was never personal. I want to apologize to the room if it appeared that way. I go hard for my people, you know, collectively. I think we should be in unity and be able to walk with the NAACP and say, hey, let's go get the bag for our folks. But I'm also about transparency. And if wrong is done, we got to be able to admit our wrongs. Whether you're a person working for an institution that was an institution when you were 5 or not even born. Because I stand on what I said about our governor. He wasn't even here when California started doing the harms to our people. And Betty, you were not, to your credit, you were only 10 when this organization did what they did. I get that. But you being unwilling to at least, maybe right now, maybe you can't, maybe it's political, acknowledge or lobby for an apology at the national level.
Is this an apology?
No.
Oh, okay.
And a local level? No, that's your hat, Betty, so you get to wear it. I'm
wearing it
apologizing
now,
if you
and
feel personally
so,
attacked.
At this time, I'm shutting it down. We
Or
were
you
supposed to
got it.
end at
Thank
3
you.
o'clock. Bye. We were supposed to end at 3 o'clock. So at this time, I do want to acknowledge Reggie Fair, who's with the Secretary of State, that he's here in the room.
Hey, Reggie.
I also want to acknowledge my secretary for the Sacramento branch of the NAACP, Angelina. Hi, everyone. I want to acknowledge our office manager back there, Nicole, who works hand in hand with Chris to make sure that these things happen. The hard work and pulling this all together. And I absolutely want to thank Chris for all of the good work that he continues to do.
It's my second town hall today, all right? Second one. Wow. Second one.
And so when is our next one?
July 8th, we'll be in North Sacramento at the Roberts Family Community, I'm messing up, Robertson Development Community Family Center, North Sacramento. Also though, June 29th, the State Reparations Task Force is meeting here in Sacramento at the Secretary of State's office, or building rather, in the auditorium, not in the office, in the building, in the auditorium, starting at 9 a.m. It is the final hearing before the release of the final report, that's it. So be there, and we want as many people there as possible to show that as many people as possible who are supporting the path. So make sure you watch it. June 29th, that's Thursday, June 29th, starting at 9 a.m. at the Secretary of State office building downtown. So I think it's on 11th Street, 11th and Cole or something like that. Hope I'm getting it right.
But going from that work during those hours, are there going to be veterans, are there going to be weekend meetings?
Yeah, so that's something that so usually most of the hearings, at least for the last year, were on either Friday or Saturday. Because we know that getting folks out on a third, again, as I said, we all volunteer, so like some of us be like at work during the hearing, like literally like in the back of the hearing with our laptops open. So normally they are either on Friday or Saturday. There's also a virtual option too, so you can watch it and participate virtually also, if you can't attend in person. Actually, our family here, Kim and Moya, who work with ETM Media Group, they live stream all of the task force hearings on YouTube also. So you can participate virtually. If you can't watch it while it's happening, you can definitely watch it, as soon as you can, the next day or on the weekend too. So I go through the same thing. I'm probably gonna have to like take off work or something like that, but usually they're on a weekend or so. And there will potentially be other hearings too. We just don't know yet because we're waiting on a law to either pass or not pass.
But if we have your information, we'll make sure that we get that to you.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you, guys.
Make sure you sign up for the sign-in sheet too. All right, great.